Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another disappointing episode of the Bear Necessities podcast. I'd like to say that this game hurt, but to be honest, it really didn't. I'm kind of used to it at this point, and I feel like, we're all kind of getting used to what it means to be a Bears fan in 2020. Reece, how are you feeling after this beautiful loss?
I mean, it was to be expected, right? I mean, honestly, I was mentally preparing to come on here just in case if they won and try to rationalize to everyone not to get too excited about this because they still didn't play that great, even though they were playing a Lions team that, just put the interim Bevel at, head coach and, have been trending downwards over the past couple of weeks. But, if there's any team that's going to give another team life, it's the Bears. And the Bears, they choked it away. I mean, the 10-point lead that we had towards the end of the fourth quarter definitely did not seem secure, and it ended up not being secure. And you really got to question the play calling down the end of the line. I know that, for the most part, it seemed like the Bears had a lot more rhythm on offense this game than others. They were able to actually move the ball downfield with, a certain amount of consistency. But, when it counted and, in the third quarter, once again, they had 0 points and, they finally got that extra touchdown to give them some insurance, early in the fourth. But, the play calling down the line wasn't enough. They passed the ball when they should have been running it and, vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that the play calling was, for the most part, fine until that very last play. I mean, who in hell's decision was it to run on that last drive in 4th and 1? That just doesn't make sense to me. You limit really what you're able to do. And there was a lot of times where the Lions were just flat out predicting runs on us. So, I mean, with a broken offensive line, you're really going to run. That's really what you're going to bet your money on. Allen Robinson, by the way, really, really stupid move, stepping out of bounds when you were right at the first down line and then didn't have that happen. The Bears probably would have won that game if Allen Robinson would have just gotten that first down. Unfortunately, that does not happen. Thoughts on, I'm gonna do just some general thoughts on the offense today. For the most part, offense looks fairly good. I thought, obviously, this is a Lions team, but really any signs of life on this offense, even against terrible teams like the Lions, is a positive for us. But defensively, just still not able to hold on. Seems like these past 2 weeks, something has been really bothering this defense. I don't know if they're just tired. I mean, we saw it at the end of last season as well, where they came out strong, and by the end of the season, they're just tired because they're, forced to bear so much of the load. It's hard to really say at this point, but at the end of the day, this Bears offense needs to be carrying their side of the ball much better. I mean, we could be critical of this Bears defense all we want because we're holding them to this elite status that we were having them at. But at the end of the day, when an offense doesn't hold up its side of the bargain, you're going to see some sort of drawback. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing here for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I mean, defensive-wise, I think that, this wasn't the worst game as far as, how often they were put on the field. Luckily, since the offense did find a bit of a stride. But, maybe it is a little bit of, a cumulative thing from over the course of the season as to just how often they've been on the field. And we're getting in towards the end of the season here, so players are getting tired. And, this defense is exhausted. And I think for the most part, this was a team that was really, I think especially when they played zone in this game, were really figured out. They were really figured out, especially in the middle of the field. I mean, TJ Hawkinson definitely found some gaps, some seams, especially, kind of along that edge, where that safety, perhaps when they're playing cover 2 or just a single high safety, they weren't really getting that help over the top. And that's how they were able to get that, that first touchdown. I forgot who it was to, maybe to Marvin Jones, right? When they got that quick little strike right towards the end zone there. And yeah, I mean, it just seemed like there was definitely some seams in their coverage today. I mean, Danny Trevathan seemed kind of slow in coverage. I mean, that was kind of more par for the course to usual. I think one of the things that jumped out at me that I made a note of is that Robert Quinn on that 4th and 1, what a liability he has been on this defense. I mean, they ran that quick little sneak. I want to say this was on 4th and inches in the third quarter, and Matthew Stafford did a little sneak, and he just ran right off to the edge there, and Robert Quinn was just sitting there. Didn't read.
He was one-on-one with him.
Didn't react. And, yeah, if he actually reacted on the play, could have stopped him. I mean, these are the type of plays that are going to hurt this defense down the stretch. And, some of the players that are having a harder time out there are being singled out.
I think that while the Bears defense does deserve a lot of criticism, it's really hard to critique part of the team that has really been the only ounce of success for us. And when the team starts getting tired and they can't hold up their end of the bargain anymore, looking at them and placing the blame on them, I don't think is really a fair criticism, even though I do think that Chuck Pagano's role with this defense certainly has to be reconsidered at the end of the season when there's an inevitable coaching change, if that does not happen currently. The defense didn't play how it usually plays today, but how much can you blame them? They've probably played an entire season worth of snaps already. They're probably exhausted, and this is just, when there's so much going wrong, it's almost hard to stay motivated, I feel like, as a defense and as a team in general. I mean, earlier this week, we saw multiple Bears receivers tweeting out about how they essentially don't like being on the Bears, which I don't blame them too much, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. I think that we really just need to accept that this Bears team is going to be a fairly bad team. I was astounded today when the announcers were talking about that the Bears were really only one game away from getting the last wild card spot, which is insane when you think about it, because we really, really should not even be in playoff thought right now with how this offense works. And really, I think what really is going to define Matt Nagy's coaching tenure is teams that look good and that will perform well, but if something goes, just a little thing goes wrong, everything goes downhill. And you start to see this with, if the first down play doesn't work exactly how it's supposed to, or if Mitch fumbles in the end zone, or if Allen Robinson doesn't pick up that, last yard on that third down play, everything just goes to complete shit. And that is a huge issue for a coach. You can't have it be so drastic when these things happen. You have to be able to recover from them. So, I mean, ultimately, I don't predict anything changing until we see the changing of the guard at quarterback and at not play caller necessarily, but at head coach. Yes, I do think that we do obviously need to get a new offensive coordinator as well. I really think that probably the entire coaching staff, including Pagano, should be, completely gotten rid of, and the team should just start new there. People want to keep going at Ryan Pace, but I still, even though I believe that it is a valid criticism to say, he picked Mitchell Trubisky, he brought in Matt Nagy, this is his team as far as that goes. Just with how good the rest of the team is, I feel like Matt Nagy as a coach looks so much better, or it's almost like he looked so much better early on because of Ryan Pace and the defense and just the team that he built. And now he looks so much worse because these Bears fans, they understand that this is a really talented team. And if your team's talent is not the issue, then I think it's a hard argument to make that the GM should go, because on the opposite side of it, there's GMs all the time that get rotated in and out. And I think the stability that Ryan Pace offers is really good for this team right now. And, he is probably going to be picking the next quarterback, but at the end of the day, did Mitch not work because of Ryan Pace and because it was such a terrible pick? It was a terrible pick. I'm not trying to defend that, but there's also something to be said that he wasn't afforded the luxury of having a good head coach to help guide him with that, to kind of make that pairing. And, there's some theories that might have been from upper level management that didn't want to fire John Fox early until he finished his coaching, essentially his contract with the Chicago Bears. So at the end of the day, yes, he drafted Mitchell Trubisky. Yes, he drafted Leonard Floyd. Yes, he drafted Kevin White. But there's so much to be hopeful for with this team, and he consistently brings in talent year after year. I mean, look at this last draft. Darnell Mooney, Jalen Johnson. You can talk all you want about Cole Kmet not being that, great in his rookie, or impactful in his rookie year, but that's kind of the MO with these tight ends, and he's showing some promise.
Yeah, I think unfortunately for Ryan Pace, I think that, he's someone whose mistakes are glaring. Even the best, general managers in the league make mistakes. I mean, you have to make so many decisions at that, level, at that position, that, you're bound to get some incorrect. And the issue is that, he missed on Nagy if he gets fired. I mean, that was a coach that he brought in, so you have to consider that a miss as well. missed on Mitchell Trubisky, and of course the effects of that are cascading, and it's really upsetting for fans to see the other two options that were there. And I think people have come to the realization that Mahomes was slept on by a lot of teams, but at least that decision to go for Trubisky over Watson, I think, is a fair criticism. And like you kind of brought up with Floyd, I mean, there's a couple other smaller, more minor issues there. I think for the most part, in bringing personnel in, he's been good, especially in the late rounds of drafts. But, picking up high in the first round, you can make some criticisms there as well. I think that the Mac trade at the time, and it still was a pretty good move that, of course, has brought in, one of the best players this team has ever had. With all that being said, though, I think that, the people that are calling for everything to be kind of tore down, I can understand where it's coming from, because what is going on with the Bears is kind of it's a systemic issue, and people don't want to see the Bears kind of get into a rut that a team like the Jets, like a team like the Browns in the past have been stuck in, where you're constantly rotating through coaches because you feel like it's their fault, but the problems really run a lot higher up within the organization. And I think that, where with this, with where this team has been currently and what they've accomplished over basically the past 20 years, I think those criticisms are fair. And, people want to, start, even criticism of the, executives are even higher up than general manager. Get the president or even, the owners, the McCaskies, don't go without blame and all this. So it's a really complex issue. And ultimately, the Bears need to choose a path. I mean, they can't continue waffling down this lane. They need to start making decisions that are a lot more in the future, a lot more sustainable success. And this team has not sustained success. I mean, this Bears team has had kind of good seasons, but they've been off trend for where they've been, relative to the seasons around it, afterwards and beforehand. So that, to me, that's just a mark of a poorly run team. And unfortunately, where the Bears are at right now is a fact of, the decisions they've made far down the line, even before they brought in, someone like Pace to be GM.
Here's the thing. I think that if Watson and Mahomes, and obviously this is in a hypothetical world, if Watson and Mahomes don't turn out to be the quarterbacks that they are, Ryan Pace is not viewed in the same way he is by fans. I think fans, whether they want to admit it or not, have internalized this kind of distaste for the Mitchell Trubisky pick. And I understand, because quarterback is such a important position, and to not have it, it's really frustrating for teams. But at the end of the day, quarterbacks, even quarterbacks that look great on paper don't turn out very frequently. And you can look at, for instance, Sam Darnold right now. We can argue whether that's the coach or whatever you want to, but he was viewed as a very sure pick. And it was even the scam for Sam season. People remember that. And even he has not amounted to exactly, what he probably should have today. At the end of the day, if you want to evaluate Ryan Pace in the lens of, he messed up on this, and that, I can point to, and I think a lot of people should think about this, first round worthy talents that Ryan Pace has brought into this team, maybe not through the first round pick, but just brought in different ways to this team that have made really big impacts and compensate for a lot of the first round misses he has. Obviously, he needs to get the quarterback right, but with Ryan Pace has really had one shot at the cornerback. Okay, we can say, Foles, we can say, Glennon, but at the end of the day, those were never Ryan Pace's guys. He really has had one chance at a quarterback, and that has been Mitchell Trubisky. Obviously went terribly, right? But I am willing, because we've seen him bring in guys like Akeem Hicks off the streets, essentially. No one essentially wanted him. Even Mario Edwards Jr. this season has had a really good season, just, off the streets, right? He brought in guys like Khalil Mack, one of the best players this franchise has ever seen. Roquan Smith, his latest first-round pick, has been really, really good. All-pro level linebacker. Has not gotten that distinction yet, but is probably on his way to this season. And it's like he brings in Jalen Johnson, probably defensive rookie of the year at this point. There's a ton of talent that he has brought in, and I feel like he is a good enough GM where once you get that position kind of settled, you don't want to be shuffling in guys and out. And you bring up the Jets and you bring up the Browns and these organizations. One thing that I think that you could be really critical of them for is not only picking bad GMs, but cycling through them too often and maybe not giving them a full chance to see out their plan. Obviously, Ryan Pace has had, I would say, one full rebuild's worth of time, but not everything's going to go perfect the first time around. I think that keeping the stability at the general manager position and just, getting a new head coach, getting, a new defensive coordinator and having him learn from his mistakes, because that's the one thing. If you want to, bash on Ryan Pace all you want, the one thing that I think has been very apparent is that he's learned from his mistakes as he continues to go on as a GM.
Yeah, and I think there's some truth in that, and I agree with what you say about stability. I think there's a certain degree of stability that's important, because you're not
going to be cycling through these people all the time. And I know as Bears fans, we're accustomed to it at this point, but I feel like if we fired Ryan Pace, we'd be just starting back over at where we were when this team is miles better than some of the teams we've had in the past two regimes.
But they're not good enough, though. They're not good enough. And where's the results, though? Where's the results? They brought in all these players, but the results aren't there. And blame is someone on the head coach, but the person that brought him in is Ryan Pace. And he's made the playoffs one time since he's been GM. And yeah, there's been regime changes. There's been a lot of things there, but we can only continue to apologize. And the thing is you get to the point where is being happy that we've improved from the John Fox era and the Phil Emery and Mark Trestman era. Is that good enough for this Bears organization? Are we happy with where we're at right now with, how things are going? Or are you okay with rebuilding, sucking some more? Because how much further can you get? And actually hopefully have a chance at one point to make a Super Bowl. Because this is a team that is still, no matter what, even if they make a bunch of great changes in this offseason, they're still miles away. Even in mentality. This team does not have a winning mentality, especially doesn't have it under Matt Nagy. And, some of that blame has to go up to Pace. I think that Pace has done a lot of things right. I think he could definitely be a great GM in the league. I almost can say the same thing about Nagy. I think that Nagy could be a good head coach someday in the league. But right now it's not fitting. It's not working for this Bears organization. And maybe it's not even their fault. That's what I'm kind of trying to hint at here. Like maybe it's not even at the mercy of Nagy and Pace. It's just they're in an organization that will not facilitate success.
Well, I think that if you want to get into the whole organizational aspect of it, that there's a lot more validity in talking about, hey, the guys who are really at the top that are making these decisions, can they actually run a team well? But at the end of the day, I continue to think that a GM's job is to bring talented players in, and that a head coach's job is to get the most out of those players. And yes, it has not been enough, but I don't know if I'm ready to completely wipe slate. I don't even always believe that wiping slate all at the same time is always beneficial for a team. I think that really taking a look at exactly where are the root causes of this team. Matt Nagy, not only was he not able to, he looked like a very incompetent play caller at times, which, was the risk with bringing him in as a head coach. And, you can blame that on Ryan Pace, but I think at the end of the day, I think a lot of GMs wish that at that time that they probably could have gotten Matt Nagy because he was that highly regarded. Yes, it's a GM's job to kind of see through that, smoke and everything, but at the end of the day, this is a talented Bears team, and this is like I don't know if I necessarily agree with you by saying that this team is far away. Will they win a Super Bowl next year? Probably not, but at the end of the day, I could see this being something where, kind of similar to, now this is going to be a little bit of an exaggeration, but to a lesser degree, something that happened with like the Kansas City Chiefs, where they look like a mediocre team for a good series of years, right? I don't want to say that this Bears team, even though that they have really struggled on offense, I still think that you have to say they're at worst mediocre just because of how great the defense has been, right? They have this mediocre team, but as soon as you get, a couple of pieces in the right positions, they're able to actually take off and you're able to see the talent around them. Personally, I view that the talent on this team is not an issue. I view the biggest issues being the quarterback and the head coach, and I'm willing to let Ryan Pace try to sift that out one last time.
Yeah, I understand. And I think that, maybe more of a retool than a rebuild is what's at stake here. And not everything is at fault. Like, maybe tearing everything down will do more harm than good. I'm I don't know. It's tough, and maybe they're not miles away, but at the same time, I mean, right, they don't have the head coach. They don't have the quarterback. I mean, they don't have the
two of the most important things.
Exactly. I mean, they don't have it. Yeah, I do think that this is the most talented Bears roster that we've seen in a long time, right? And you have to give Ryan Pace credit for that. And the moves that he's made have been, relatively good. Like you said, Mario Edwards, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, we can go on and on and on about all these great players that he's brought in. I mean, it seems like the defense, continually is being refreshed with new talent, and that's great. I think as far as offensively, the people that he's brought in, especially in this offseason, it's been okay. I think what we've seen from Jimmy Graham has been okay. This
offseason has
Fetty has been okay. I mean, Komet, we kind of saw him come a little bit alive in this game. It's been slow to kind of see him get involved, but that's okay. We kind of expected that. But it's just like, I don't know. I guess still, if we want the Bears to get there, I think even Pace needs to have a bit of a change of mentality. Just be a bit aggressive. I feel like there's still, there's a lot of moves on the table that the Bears could have made much earlier in the season when they were still 5-1, when they were still actually winning games that, maybe these are acquisitions that doesn't change the direction of this team, but, maybe we're still talking about them possibly being in the playoff picture, and they take that as good or bad. I mean, at whatever in this point, it doesn't really matter. I don't know. It's just tough. It's tough to really rationalize where this Bears team needs to be at this point, because it's just we haven't really learned that much from them all season long because they've been continually making the same mistakes, and
it's the same issues.
It's just frustrating. It's just frustrating for fans, and I can see why people want heads to roll. I get it. I can't
rationalize Matt Nagy staying as the head coach. I just cannot rationalize Matt Nagy remaining the head coach, and I don't think any of the players on the team would be very happy about it. I mean, we had Anthony Miller calling him out, and it sucks because all these conversations, right now this is supposed to be about the Detroit Lions game. The Detroit Lions game doesn't matter, right? Like, at the end of the day, this loss does not matter to us in the slightest. In fact, it might actually help benefit us by helping institute some of these changes. Matt Nagy has to go. And the Bears, they don't have a history of firing coaches mid-season, but I think they need to send a message to this team and fire Matt Nagy on Monday morning. I think that tomorrow Matt Nagy has to be gone because they need to set the tone that mediocrity is not going to be accepted here. And even though I do believe that Ryan Pace, believe it or not, I'm one of the lone Bears fans that has this opinion. I think he is above average GM for sure in this league. I mean, look at some of these GMs that constantly get cycled in and out. There's so many teams that would wish that they had a GM like Ryan Pace. I think he offers us some sort of stability, and that's what I was saying before. But mediocrity on offense and, in the coaching staff should not be accepted, especially with the type of talent we have. And I think that, truthfully, they need to show that no one on this team is safe. And that's why I think it honestly was a good decision that they haven't extended Allen Robinson at this point, because I'm going to bring this up, and this is a very unpopular opinion. We got a little bit of smoke from it just a couple weeks ago saying it, but no one on this offensive roster deserves $20 million a year. Not a single person, even Allen Robinson. The first things that need to be fixed before we even think about giving a wide receiver $20 million a year is the quarterback and having a good offensive line, because without that, Allen Robinson can be as good as he wants. He's not going to get the ball in his hands, and that's what we're seeing this season. Charles Leno Jr. looks terrible, absolutely horrible. Both of the offensive tackles need to be replaced, okay? Or Charles Leno has to at least get slot in at right tackle, because he cannot handle that left tackle position. He got multiple penalties today, which is consistently an issue that he has. And he also got beat multiple times just horrifically from bad Detroit Lions pass rushers. Okay, Charles Leno either needs to go or at minimum needs to go to right tackle, because we cannot have it. Bobby Massey, I think he needs to go too. He didn't play today, but if Eddie needs to go, we need more talent there at that guard position too. I know he didn't play guard today, but really the only players on the offensive line today that had optimistic outlooks on are actually Mustafa and Bars, because they look like they're playing pretty decent. Maybe they could be rotational guys, but this entire offensive line, this entire quarterback situation, and this entire coaching staff need to be addressed before we even think about giving Allen Robinson $20 million a year.
Yeah, and to get back to where you started, I mean, I think it would be great if the Bears fired Nagy on Monday, because I agree. I think that you should send the message that, hey, this mediocrity isn't accepted. And if you want an exact parallel to the situation, I mean, just look at the Jim Boylan era with the Bulls. I mean, how frustrated fans got that they just kept hanging on to that man when you knew they had no future with that man at coach. And it really seems like we're at that same point with Matt Nagy, and letting him coach out the rest of the season just kind of seems like a kind gesture, which, Matt Nagy and all, he seems like a great guy. I mean, honestly, I don't have anything against him personally, but we're talking sports here. It's about results, and he hasn't been putting them up. And I want to see him gone. It's what's best for the team. And, if you send him out Monday, sure, who cares what exactly. I mean, it's a good thing they lost to the Lions. I mean, who cares what this team does the rest of the season? Hopefully they lose out. Hopefully they get as good of a pick as they possibly.
That's what we should hope.
Yeah,
that's what we should hope.
Hopefully they get as good of a pick as possible. Put whatever interim coach in there that you want. I'd have to really kind of do a bit deeper dive as to like who on the staff I would like to have become that interim coach. But
probably just Pagano.
Pagano stands out because of course he's had that past experience as head coach of Indianapolis, so that jumps out on the page for you. But start the search now. Don't dwiddle the fingers. Don't come in late to the head coach. Head coach carousel when you're going to want to be part of it, or at least fans know they want to be part. I don't know about the organization, but just don't come in late to the party when you want to go.
Here's the issue, and I think both of us recognize that maybe Matt Nagy can find some sort of level of success as a head coach in the NFL somewhere. But at the end of the day, something that is even more important than if you're a good play caller or if you're a good offensive designer or whatever it may be is if the team believes in you. And this team clearly has lost all faith in Matt Nagy. Like the fact that Anthony Miller, who's only ever played on the Chicago Bears, has been, coming out pretty strong against Matt Nagy. Obviously some of the tweets he's liking, and then some of the things he's saying in interviews about not playing. He said something in an interview about they're not actually using the plays that they're repping all week. I mean, that is disgusting. I mean, not that Anthony Miller has been all that great of a player that he should have any sort of entitlement to him, but at the end of the day, he has been one of our more consistent players on offense, and he's coming out strong against your head coach. This team needs a change at head coach. The one thing I want to address right now, there was a little rumor floating around. I don't know who the hell leaks these rumors, and then they just seem to get kind of propagated by a bunch of fan pages on Instagram or something. I don't know. That's how it seems like a lot of these more lower line rumors start when you don't get them from Adam Schefter's these Instagram or Twitter pages. And there's a little rumor floating around that Pat Fitzgerald would be the top candidate for this Bears coaching job, which by the way has absolutely no credible sources backing this, right? That might be the one person that would be possibly worse for this team next year than Matt Nagy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny hypothetical to play with, but I think that Pat Fitzgerald's a great coach for Northwestern. He's done remarkable things with that team, but that's not really the coach that we need right now. I mean, he's kind of, to me, he's very much an inspirational leader, and to me, this Bears team isn't one that struggles with inspiration. I think that they still keep things somewhat together. And even though we've kind of started to see, some of the issues murmur out of the locker room, kind of seep out. I mean, it's taken a while. I mean, this team is on a 6-game losing streak. I mean, it's going to happen. The tone is going to be pretty negative, and I just don't think Pat Fitzgerald is the answer. But it'll certainly, I'm sure it's going to gain traction because I know that he's publicly said that the only team that he'd give up coaching for Northwestern for would be the Bears. So I'm sure there'll be speculation. We're going to hear a lot of things. We're going to hear a lot of things before the end of the season, that's for sure, especially if the Bears wait that long to fire Matt Nagy. I mean, we're going to get a lot of names, and we're going to be doing a lot of evaluating of those names that, right now I think that Pat Fitzgerald isn't the answer.
Joe Brady needs to be the coach of the Chicago Bears team if they want to have any hope of having an okay offense next year, if I'm being completely honest. There's only one really like really, really intriguing name on this head coaching carousel that's going to be coming up, and that's Joe Brady. He has to be the one that you go for, and you have enough offensive pieces. I think you could convince him to come over. He also has Saints connection with Ryan Pace. If Ryan Pace stays there, that we need some. We certainly need some major changes, and it needs to be an NFL head coach, in my opinion, with a proven track record of offensive consistency, and that's what Joe Brady is right now. Yeah. Especially offensive consistency by himself. I think that's the one thing that we all need to take away from this Matt Nagy era, is to be careful about these coordinators who come from trees that have a very overarching head coach, like someone that has a big name, Andy Reid, or like guys like Sean Payton, or even Bruce Arians, right? I would be very afraid to draw from one of them because they could be as good as they want. They don't have their hands all over the offense, though.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's pretty much the direction they need to go. And, no Jim Harbaugh either.
No.
None of that. And, one thought that just popped in my head here was, man, is this Bears team lucky? Is Matt Nagy lucky that there are no fans in that stadium? Like, bro, honestly, could you imagine?
Yeah, right.
Could you imagine if fans were in that stadium, like with the direction this team has gone? It would be ruckus.
I wish they could be.
I wish
they could.
Me too.
Yeah. It's something that they need to know just how disappointing this team is. Now, like, it's almost like Matt Nagy's tenure here has been so downhill since 2018 that you almost question whether Mitchell Trubisky's development was entirely on himself. We could say Mitch Trubisky's been as bad as we want, but at the end of the day, he also clearly didn't have a head coach that was helping him out too much.
Oh, yeah, clearly. I think that there's going to be a lot of mysteries that come out of this kind of coaching era, and it's going to be one of a lot of failed potential, because I think obviously with the way they started in 2018 was a very promising start, and the way they built up off of that, the hype that they kind of carried into that 2019 season and and beyond. I mean, you just have to say it's kind of definitely a disappointment, that's for sure.
And I don't even know what happened, because it just seemed like Matt Nagy just got rattled after that season, or maybe the expectations were too high, but it's been nothing but terrible since Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace both won the respective Coach of the Year and Executive of the Year simultaneously, while having one of the best defenses that the NFL has seen in a decade, truthfully, is what that 2018 Bears defense was.
Yeah, it's all Adam Rank's fault when he did that whole thing where he was like, "Oh, the Bears are gonna go 16-0 in 2019." Like, that man.
Yeah, all him. It's got to be all on him. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what else can be said? It's unfortunate that, it's going to be hard to be doing these reaction videos because, hey, since everything is always the same with this team, you just have to start looking at the top, and that's the thing is, God, I hope that there's some sort of change coming on Monday. I have a feeling that we'll have to wait till the end of the season, but ultimately my gut tells me that there will be a coaching change on this team, as there should be.
If history with this Bears organization tells you anything, it's that a move or a change will not happen until the end of the season, until that final snap is played. But I guess as Bears fans, we can always dream. We're pretty good at that, so, we can always dream.
Yeah, we're good at getting ourselves excited is what we are. But yeah, the Bears fall to an absolutely terrible Lions team with a not good interim head coach with Darrell Bevell. So, hopefully you guys are all accustomed to this as much as we are. It's weird how losses hurt so much more in winning seasons than they do in losing seasons. But at this point, it is what it is. Mitchell Trubisky, he's much better than Nick Foles for this team right now. Definitely was not his fault in the slightest. I mean, yes, he fumbled that ball, which I take that back. That was his fault. But at the end of the day, there's a lot bigger.
At least they put up 30 points, though. And with Nick Foles, they never even licked that. So.
Yeah, well, except for the Tampa Bay Bucks game, which he scored 30 points.
Yeah,
but,
whatever.
That's okay. That's okay, Reece. That's okay. We all make mistakes sometimes. Point, maybe me a little bit less than you, but that's okay.
At this point in the season, man, my effort can go down too.
Yeah, right. We're just gonna start uploading these unedited, and that'll be good. That'll be good. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. We this is kind of a long video, but we hope you enjoyed our rant.
Bear down.
Bear down.